My name is Hector, and I'm 80 years old. 3 months ago, my best friend died. His name was Antonio. We had known each other for 57 years, and when he died, a part of me died with him. But it's not his death I want to talk to you about today. It's what his death taught me about life, about friendship, about all the time we waste believing we have more time than we actually do. Antonio and I met in 1967. I was 23, he was 24. We had both just started jobs at a construction company on the outskirts of Mexico City. I was new to the electrical crew. Antonio was new to the plumbing crew. On our first day, the foreman put us to work on the same building. We spent 8 hours working in silence, each of us trying to prove we knew what we were doing. At the end of the day, as we were packing up our tools, Antonio asked me if I wanted to go for some beers. I said yes. We went to a bar near the construction site. We each had 3 beers. We talked about football, women, nothing important. And when we said goodbye that night, neither of us knew that we had just begun a friendship that would last more than half a century. It wasn't dramatic. There wasn't a moment where we said, we'll be best friends forever. We just kept going out for beers after work, once a week, then twice. And little by little, without even realizing it, we became a part of each other's lives. In 1969, Antonio married Mercedes. I was his best man. In 1971, I married Lucia. Antonio was my best man. Our wives became friends. Not as close as we were, but they got along well. Every Friday night, without fail, the 4 of us would get together. Sometimes we'd go out to dinner. Sometimes we'd just stay at one of our houses, playing cards, talking, laughing. We never did anything spectacular. We didn't travel the world together. We didn't build a business. We didn't have crazy adventures. We were just 2 ordinary men living ordinary lives. But those Friday nights, those conversations, that constant presence in each other's lives, that was everything. When Antonio's son Diego was born in 1973, I was at the hospital. Not in the delivery room, but there, waiting. When Antonio came out and told me, "It's a boy," we both cried. 2 grown men, tough construction workers, crying in a hospital hallway. When my daughter Anna was born in 1975, Antonio did the same thing. He was there. We worked together at that construction company for 16 years, from 1967 to 1983. Then the company went bankrupt. It was a hard blow for both of us. Antonio found a job with the government, in the Public Works Department. I got a job in a factory, supervising electrical installations. We didn't see each other every day at work anymore, but we still had our Fridays. In 1988, my father died. It was sudden, a heart attack. He was alive on Monday, dead on Tuesday. I was devastated. My father and I had a complicated relationship, and now there was no time to fix it. Antonio didn't try to tell me everything would be all right. He didn't give me advice. He was just there. At the funeral, he stood beside me. He put his hand on my shoulder. That was enough. In 1992, Antonio's son, Diego, got into trouble. He had started messing with drugs, cocaine first, then worse. Antonio was desperate. He didn't know what to do. Mercedes cried every night. One night, Antonio came to my house at 11. He knocked on the door. When I opened it, he just looked at me and started to cry. He didn't say anything. I hugged him, and we cried together in my doorway. Diego went to rehab twice. The second time it worked. He came out clean, and he stayed clean. Now he's 48, married, and has 2 children. He's a good man. Antonio always said he owed his life to that second rehab. I think he owed his life to Antonio, who never gave up on him. True friendship is that. It's not just the good times. It's standing by someone when their life is falling apart. It's not having the right words, but being there anyway. It's crying together when there's nothing else to do. In 2002, Lucia died. Breast cancer. She fought for 2 years. Antonio and Mercedes were there the whole time. When Lucia could no longer get out of bed, Mercedes came every day to help me take care of her. Antonio would come after work. He would sit by her bed, tell her bad jokes that made her smile even when the pain was unbearable. The day Lucia died, I was alone with her. Well, alone until Antonio arrived. I had called from the hospital, told him it was time. He dropped everything and came. He arrived 15 minutes before she passed away. Lucia opened her eyes, saw him, smiled weakly, and died. Antonio hugged me while I trembled. I didn't cry then. The shock was too great. I cried 3 days later in the middle of the night and called Antonio at 4 in the morning. He answered on the second ring. He came to my house. We stayed up until dawn. After Lucia died, I fell into a deep hole. I didn't want to come out. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want anything. Antonio wouldn't let me stay there. He came to my house every morning. He knocked until I opened the door. He made me get dressed. He took me for walks. We didn't talk much on those walks, but his presence kept me alive during those dark months. In 2008, Mercedes died. A brain aneurysm. Without warning. She was alive in the morning, dead by the afternoon. Antonio called me at 5 in the morning. His voice sounded strange, empty. He only said, "Mercedes is gone." I drove to his house immediately. I found him sitting in the kitchen, staring into space. I sat down next to him. We didn't say anything for hours. We just sat there. The roles reversed. Now I was the one who went every morning, the one who made him go out, the one who stayed late so he wouldn't be alone. Because that's what real friends do. They give what they received. They're there for you through thick and thin. After Mercedes died, Antonio and I became even closer. We were 2 widowers with plenty of time on our hands. We started seeing each other not only on Fridays, but also on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We had breakfast together at the same restaurant. We always ordered the same thing. We always sat at the same table by the window. We talked about everything and nothing, about our children, about our grandchildren, about politics, about the weather, about soccer, about the women we had loved, about the mistakes we had made, about the regrets we carried. We talked about death. Not with fear, but with curiosity, with acceptance. Antonio used to say, "Hector, when I go, I don't want a sad funeral. I want people to laugh. I want them to remember the good times." I always replied, "I'm going to cry anyway, you silly old fool. And you'd cry at mine too." Last year, Antonio started forgetting things. Little things at first. The name of the waiter who served us every week, the day we were supposed to meet. I thought it was normal. We all get forgetful with age. But it got worse. In March, his daughter Laura called me. She told me that Antonio had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Early, the doctors said, but progressing rapidly. He had perhaps 2 or 3 years left before he would stop recognizing the people he loved. That news devastated me because I knew what it meant. It meant I was going to lose my best friend twice. Once when he stopped knowing who I was, and again when he finally died. The following months were hard. Antonio had good days and bad days. On the good days, he was himself. We laughed, reminisced about old stories, and enjoyed our breakfasts. On the bad days, he became confused. He called me by his dead brother's name. He asked about Mercedes as if she was still alive. He got lost in the middle of a story he had told hundreds of times. I kept going. Tuesdays, Thursdays, every day if necessary. Because it didn't matter if he knew who I was. I knew who he was, and that was enough. In September, Antonio had a stroke. Small, but enough to weaken him. He was in the hospital for a week. When he was discharged, he could no longer live alone. Laura took him to live with her. I continued to visit him. We couldn't go to the restaurant anymore, so I brought breakfast to Laura's house. We would sit on the patio. Some days Antonio would talk. Some days he would just stare at the sky. 3 months ago, Antonio had another stroke. More severe this time. He was taken to the hospital. I was there when the ambulance arrived. I followed him to the hospital. The doctors said it was a matter of days. His body was shutting down. I spent those last few days in the hospital with him. Laura was there too. Diego, the grandchildren. We were all coming and going from the room, but I stayed. I slept in a chair next to his bed. I talked to him, though I don't know if he could hear me. I reminded him of our stories, the beers after work, Fridays with our wives, the difficult times we had overcome together. Last night, Laura had gone home to sleep, Diego too. I stayed. Antonio was unconscious, breathing with difficulty. I took his hand. I said, "It's been an honor to be your friend, Antonio. Thank you for 57 years. Thank you for being there when Lucia died. Thank you for the beers, for the laughs, for everything. I'm going to miss you every day I have left in this world." She died 2 hours later. She simply stopped breathing. I was holding her hand, and when she was gone, something inside me broke in a way that can't be fixed. His funeral was 2.5 months ago. Many people came, his children, his grandchildren, former colleagues, neighbors. They all told stories about Antonio, about his kindness, his sense of humor, his loyalty. And as I listened, I realized something. I knew an Antonio that no one else knew. The Antonio of 3 in the morning when he couldn't sleep. The Antonio who cried for his son. The Antonio who sat in silence with me because silence was all we needed. That version of Antonio died with me, because that's what happens when you lose a lifelong friend. You don't just lose the person. You lose an entire shared history. You lose the only witness to your life. You lose the person who remembers who you were when you were 23. You lose the inside jokes that no one else would understand. You lose decades of shared memories. I am 80 years old now. My children have their own lives. My grandchildren come to visit me when they can, but most of the people I knew in my life are gone. My parents, Lucia, Antonio, many others, and I feel alone in a way I didn't know was possible. I still go to the restaurant, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I sit at our table by the window. I order the same thing we always ordered. The waiter no longer asks if I'm waiting for someone. He just brings my food and leaves me alone. And I sit there eating by myself, staring at the empty chair across from me, and I think about all the conversations we had at that table, all the laughter, all the moments I took for granted. Here's what I've learned after losing my best friend of 57 years. True friendship is rare, the kind of friendship Antonio and I had, where someone knows you completely and accepts you completely. That doesn't happen to everyone, and if you're lucky enough to find it, don't take it for granted. Because life is short. I know everyone says that. It's a cliche, but it's true in a way you don't understand until you're old. 57 years sounded like an eternity when we were young, but now, looking back, it feels like a blink of an eye. I see young people today and they're so busy, so focused on their careers, their phones, accumulating things, and they neglect their friends. They say, "See you soon," but soon never comes. They say, "We need to catch up," but they never do. They assume there will always be time. There isn't one. Antonio and I had our Fridays for decades. We never cancelled them. No matter what was going on in our lives, that time was sacred. And now that he's gone, I realize those Fridays were the best part of my life. Not the accomplishments at work, not the money I saved, not the things I bought. Those nights sitting around a table, laughing, talking, just being together. If you have a friend, a real friend, someone who's been with you through the years, call them. Not tomorrow, today. Make plans, and then actually go. Don't cancel because you're tired or something else came up, because one day one of you won't be there, and the other will be sitting alone in a restaurant, wishing they'd had one more conversation. Don't take the people you love for granted. Don't assume they'll always be there, because time runs out faster than you think. And when it does, all you're left with are regrets for all the times you said next time, and that next time never came. Antonio taught me what true friendship means. He taught me to show up, to stay, to be present even when it's difficult. And now that he's gone, I'm trying to honor that. I'm trying to be for others what he was for me. But nothing fills the void he left. There's a hole in my life the exact shape of 57 years of friendship, and that hole will never be filled. Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better never to have met him, if the pain of losing him is worth the 57 years we had. And every time I ask myself that question, the answer is the same. Absolutely yes. 1,000 times yes. I'd rather have this pain and these memories than have had nothing at all. Because Antonio made my life better. He made me a better person. And even though he's no longer physically here, the lessons he taught me, the way he showed me how to be a good friend, that lives on in me. If anything I said resonated with you, share it. Share it with that friend you haven't seen in months. With that person you keep saying you'll call, with someone who needs to know their friendship matters before it's too late. And leave me a comment. Tell me about your friend, about the person who's been there for you, or about the friend you lost and still miss, because these stories matter, these connections matter. Subscribe because I have more to share, more lessons learned from a long life, more truths about love, loss, and what truly matters in the end. I won't be here forever, none of us will, but while I am here, I want to use this time to remind you that life isn't about the things you accumulate. It's about the people you love and who love you back. Antonio is gone. But every Tuesday and Thursday, when I sit at that table by the window, I feel he's there. In the memories, in the stories, in the way I see the world now, thanks to him. That's the thing about true friendship. It never really ends. People die, but the impact they have on your life, the way they change you, that's permanent. And if you have that, if you have even one person in your life who knows you completely and accepts you completely, you are one of the lucky ones. Don't forget it. Don't take it for granted, because time flies. And one day, you'll wake up and realize it's over. Antonio gave me 57 years. I wish I'd been 80. I wish I could be here now. I wish many things. But what I have are the memories, and the knowledge that I was loved by a good man, and that I loved him back. That's all any of us can hope for, to be loved, and to love well in return. Don't waste your chance to do that. Life is too short, and true friends are too rare.